Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining this evening. If you're joining live, if you're joining later on, this will be something that I'm just posting, coming along to give a quick summary because I've just been on another course with some guys, and I was basically talking about nutrition and calories. As you know, if you've been here a minute, I am currently running a challenge with some guys on Facebook, and it's just basically a step challenge. That's why, hence, I'm dressed the way I'm dressed because I've just been trying to show how easy it can be for you to be able to put in your 5K. So I put in my watch not long time ago, and I've just been monitoring, and just standing here has actually been one of those ways that I've realized it can be very easy to do 5,000 steps. And so, as we were doing the second day, I just thought I'm going to come along and just give a brief overview of the things that we discussed today. And today was all about calories. It's not to like about calories. I love calories. And we're just highlighting what calories are. And I'm just going to kind of quickly recall this so that for those who are following this challenge from YouTube, I know there are a few of you who are following these, can be able to gain a little bit more information from there. So calories are basically just defining calories is the energy that you obtain from different types of food and drink. So when you eat your food, I mentioned yesterday, if you watched any of the videos from yesterday, when you eat your food, it just gets to be broken down into energy so that if you're having that energy, it can actually be able to power you and to make you to be able to be alive and to move from A to B, etc. So today we were mainly focusing on this whole concept of calories and trying to understand what is in a calorie, or what can account for calories and things like that. As I mentioned before, and I'm going to mention now, when I'm running this challenge, it is my personal life that I'm encouraging people to come along and do it together with me. And so I am in that journey where I'm no longer mentioning my story yesterday about my weight loss journey. And if you're interested in, you can look up, you can find it and can give you a bit of motivation. But I'm at that stage of my life that I'm no longer with the goal of losing weight, but I'm much more interested in maintaining weight. And that's why I do the things that I do. I exercise, I look after what I eat because I really want to maintain this, as I said yesterday, for the long time. I'm not doing this for 1 or 2 years, 1 or 2 days. I want to do this as long as I am able to, by God's grace. So at the end of the day, today I'm just going to focus a little bit more into detail, not to details, but just a little bit more about calories. So I've defined what calories are, which are basically what you get the energy from your foods and from your food and your drinks. And as the title says, not all calories are the same. I strongly believe, let nobody deceive you. Calories are not equal. So you'll find that different foods have different calorific value or load in them. And so when you're thinking and making choices, it will be wise to be able to make wise choices and to decide something that will favor you depending on what you're interested in. If you're interested in losing weight, then you need to look for calories or fuel on calories that will help you to be able to lose weight. And so today, what I was just doing earlier on, and I'm going to try to do it, is talking about how you can know what to eat. In the UK, we use what is called the Eat Well Guide. We no longer talk about plate. In the US, they use My Plate. And it just kind of, in a way, thinking about it, when you need to eat calories. Men in the UK, for example, they advise a man, let's say, who's 20 years old, living a sedentary life and is not interested in gaining or losing weight, she'll eat 2,500 calories. A woman should eat 2,000 calories. So if you're aiming at eating 2,000 calories, for example, I'm a woman, so I'm going to talk of an example of a woman. Look at it from this perspective of the fact that you have something that is called, of course, you eat on a plate. So try to think about, have like that imaginary line in your plate, whereby in the middle of that line, you're dividing at least half of your plate. It should be containing fruits and vegetables. And I'll talk a little bit about this more in details in a minute, because most of the time people usually say like, okay, but I'm eating most of my half of my plate, but I'm more eating fruits. Why am I still gaining weight? Or why am I not losing weight? So when you look at that imaginary line, half of your plate should actually contain fruits and vegetables. And I highly emphasize the vegetables because vegetables tend to be lower in calorific value because they tend to have more water. They tend to have more fiber. We need fiber for our bowel movement. We need fiber, which can be fermented by those. We have about over a trillion microorganisms that live in our tummies, which are called the gut microbiota. And those gut microbiota, they help with the fermentation. So anything that is in your fruit, for example, or your vegetable, that is a fiber in it, or the roughage, it won't be able to be broken down, or some of it will not be broken down. And what it just means, it passes through to the colon, and some of it can end up being fermented by these microorganisms that live in our guts, and of course can produce some kind of, like, for example, short chain fatty acids, which can be fuel for the body and can help to have other health effects, which is something that I'll cover hopefully at some point later. And then, of course, we have this portion there that you're kind of thinking of. I need to try and ensure that I'm eating more of the starchy foods. You've got the pastas, you've got the potatoes, you have the rice and the grains, but always try to think about them in terms of they need to be whole foods. They need to be kind of the whole grains, the better, because they have a better glycemic index in that case. They have a lower effect on spiking your blood glucose or blood sugar level, and that can actually end up resulting in a positive health effect, particularly for those people who have things like diabetes and things like that. And of course, then we have this portion here where you have all your protein. Think about if you are eating normal meats and things like that, that's going to come under that portion. If you're on a plant-based diet, it's always nice to think about how much protein you're eating as well. So you can have your beans, you can have things like lentils, you can have your legumes, you can have all these different things over here in this portion there. So thinking about that when you're looking at your plate, and there are different ways in which you can do this. You can use apps to kind of, in a way, help you to know when you've eaten your macros. Macros are just mainly those things that we eat in big quantities. So that's the carbohydrates, the fats, and the protein. I mentioned in one of the recording, carbohydrate gets broken down in, because carbohydrate is just basically sugar. The different glucose molecules stuck together give you these chains, which are like starches and things like that. So they need to be broken down through the process of glycolysis, and that gives the energy which is used to power the different processes in our bodies, the metabolic processes in our bodies. If you are filling your plate with protein, what means is that the protein will be broken down, as I mentioned yesterday, and it's just going to be absorbed in small peptides or small molecules in the body and can be used. And if you have any excess, you just kind of overpower working your kidneys, but they have to filter that, and you need to get it as urea in your urine at the end of the day. If you're on something like a keto diet, what it just means is that you're ending up eating more fat, and obviously if you're eating fat, you're restricting the consumption of things like carbohydrate, and that means your body will feel like it's starving, it doesn't have energy, and so it starts to do a bit of scavenging around the body. As it's doing the scavenging, it starts to break down any stored glucose, and once that is depleted, it starts to break down the body, the fat that you're eating, into ketone bodies, and it becomes the new fuel, and that can help people who are particularly trying to lose weight. So when you're trying to think about those calories, again, as I've said, try to always imagine these calories need to be calories that will help me. And if you're trying kind of in a way to substitute, for example, you're trying to substitute your sugar, you don't want to eat sugar, so you're trying to kind of in a way substitute it with things like honey. Just always remember, just because it's a substitute, it doesn't mean necessarily there's going to be much more less calories. So I know beyond doubt that honey can have about 46 calories in a teaspoon. So if you're starting to have, let's say, tea, and then you're having 10 cups of tea, and for each cup of tea you're having it with honey, what it means at the end of the day, you can easily get 460 plus calories per day just from having a sugared or flavored tea. Something again to think about. When you're thinking about, again, things like fruits and vegetables, as I've mentioned, so if you're going more into fruits, think about like a banana will be easily 105-ish calories, depending, of course, on if it's a big banana, if it's a small banana, etc. And of course, these again do have those natural sugars in them, which sounds to be good, but if you're eating a lot of them, they can still contribute to things like dental caries. They can still also result in things like excess energy intake. And of course, when you're thinking about energy intake, energy in equals to energy out. It means you can maintain weight. That just means whatever you're eating is whatever you need to grow to remain healthy, and that you will maintain weight. But if your energy in is much, much more less than what you energy out, and maybe you're leading more of like a very active lifestyle, you end up losing weight. So you'll be in a negative energy balance. And if your energy in is more than your energy out, you're in a positive energy balance and you end up gaining weight. So if you're trying to lose weight, for example, and you end up saying like, I'm going to be eating fruits and vegetables, but then you start eating bananas and you're having 10 bananas in a day, do you know what that means? You've actually eaten 1,000 calories, which is basically half of your food intake from only bananas. So if you're going to think about the rest of the food you're eating, if you're having breakfast and things like that, more than half of what you're eating has already been taken by the fruits. So you need to be, again, very careful. And so I highly usually recommend trying to think about again, when you're eating these things, it's important to think about rainbow. Think about, let's say, things like red, because all these pigments that are in our fruits and vegetables, they are pigments that can have beneficial impact on health. Think about things like greens. Are you eating your greens? Think about your oranges. So you can eat like things like orange. Of course, those are like carotenoids in there that have health impacts on there. You can have different types of papers. Of course, they have different type of pigments in there. And just trying to think at the end of the day, what you're having should be kind of in a way providing those nutritional impacts on your body, but also being able to help you to achieve whatever you want to achieve. I love cucumbers. So you can decide, instead of snacking, let's say, on things like crisps, which I have like an example here of a packet of crisps, and it's a very small packet of crisp. And already it tells you, usually I say, if you're in doubt, you don't know how many calories you're eating. If it's something that has been processed and has been packaged, it's in the label. Look on the label, it will tell you what is in there. This is only about 25 grams. And those 25 grams is already 133 calories that you're getting from 25 grams. And I'm not so sure if you'll be full at the end of the day. So you can decide, instead of doing 25 grams of crisps, I can fill up with a cup of cucumbers, which will be basically you're drinking water. Basically, you're having water, because almost the full concentration of nutrients in a cucumber are basically water. So you're actually increasing your hydration. You're kind of, in a way, reducing your calorie intake, and you can still be able to lose weight from there. So that's why, again, I encourage, you can be tempted and say, oh, well, I need a little bit of more indulgence. Life is sweet. We need to enjoy it as we last. So you can say, okay, I'm going to go for a cookie. You can make cookies by yourself if that is something that you really want. You have a sweet tooth. You can look at those ingredients, and you can know what you're putting in your cookies. You can control how much you're putting in there. You can substitute for some of the ingredients rather than going to buy a cookie, which at the end of the day, just eating only 123 gram of cookie actually is already 6%, which is 113 calories of your energy intake. Try to imagine, how much is that? It does seem kind of like a lot, isn't it? It does seem like, kind of, in a way, I usually call them empty calories. I'm not saying that eating cookies is empty calories, but you can eat cookies, for example, on your cheat days. You can have one cookie. And I'm a strong believer in moderation. If you are having moderation, so at the end of the day, you're trying to end up with much more, and allowing yourself to kind of, in a way, eat in moderation, you will still be able to achieve some good health outcomes. And so, thinking about this again, you can have apples, and apples about 55 calories, of course, depending on which type of apples, the size of the apple, and this and on things like that. And thinking again, those rainbow, thinking of like red, the orange, the yellow, the green, the blue, the indigo, the violet, all those different products that you have, all those colors, they're actually good pigments that have actually been shown to be protective against things like they have a high content of things like antioxidants. And what antioxidants just basically means is that we live in a world where there's so much pollution, and our bodies can easily be exposed to these reactive oxygen species, which can actually end up damaging our cells, and that results in things like cancers, etc. So if you want to protect yourself, why not try to think about those rainbow? Why not think about a variety of different things that will give you those pigments that are phytonutrients, or they are bioactive, and they have those protection that will help your body against different kind of reactive oxygen species. So I was just summarizing this really, and I don't want this to be a very long recording, because as I said, it's just kind of in a way reminding you can actually engage in exercise. You can go for a run every single day and not be able to see much differences in your weight and health, because whenever you're removing those calories, you're basically replacing, and sometimes you're replacing them with ingredients that are more inferior in terms of their health consequences, and you can end up being much more in trouble, because your health can actually be affected. So to summarize this, every time you look at food, think about your food as a plate. Of course, we eat on plates. And just try to think about, even this morning, from the beginning of the day, what has been on that plate. And every time, just try to make like an imaginary line. You can close your eyes and think about it. Half of my plate. Try to ensure that half of your plate is full of these foods like vegetables that will kind of be low in calorific load and will help you to be able to lose weight if you are aiming at losing weight, but also will help you with having better health outcomes, because that can protect you and shield you from various diseases that we can easily avoid. So that wraps up for me day 2 of the challenge. And I shall see you guys on day 3 tomorrow, where we will be talking about different aspects of nutrition, as we're combining this week nutrition and exercise to try and help us to lose weight or to maintain weight. Or some people might actually want to gain weight, depending on which journey you are on. And just being here and talking and just moving a little bit here and there has actually helped me to run to step 1,783 steps, which tells you doing 5,000 steps per day is not a difficult thing. It's something you can achieve just pacing around even in your own house, and can have positive health impacts. If you're still on the fence and haven't decided to join this challenge, I highly extend this invitation to you. Join us and let us learn together the journey to grow, become more well, wise, and be more into wealth, because as I say, health is wealth. Until next time, I shall see you on the challenge tomorrow.